Now let us talk about the generalization technique. I'd like to remind that when we use this technique while translating, English words with the meaning broader than that of their Ukrainian equivalents are used. It is true for different parts of speech. This technique is called generalization and applied while translating texts of different styles. Why do we need generalization? First, when the word in the source language is used in a specific area and has no direct equivalent in the target language. Second is when direct equivalent in target language does not fit stylistically in the context. When the word of more general meaning is more common in the target language, in the translation language, than the direct equivalent. Let us look at some words, some examples of generalization. Завод відвантажив 33 тонни товару наприкінці місяця, як було узгоджено. The steel mill sent 33 tons of goods in the end of the month, as agreed. Відвантажив. The Ukrainian verb відвантажити includes two processes. The first one is to load the cargo, load the goods on some vehicle or ship or vessel or train, and to send it. In English, we don't have this direct equivalent of such a word, which could include both load and send. So more general one, to send, is used in translation. Another example. Це мені подарував Петро. Petro has given it to me. We can add as a present, or we can omit as a present. And then we have this more general word to give instead of подарувати in English, in Ukrainian. Next example. О 8 ранку ми добре поснідали. We had a substantial meal at 8 in the morning. Поснідали is to have breakfast. But in English, we can use both breakfast and meal. Meal stands for all types of eating during the day, yes? And in Ukrainian, we don't have this word, but we can easily substitute breakfast by meal in English. There are some words, some English words, which are quite commonly used when the specification technique is applied. One of these words is entity. It has quite a broad meaning, and it can stand for an organization, a group of people, and enterprise, or even a state. За законом, корпорація є єдиною юридичною особою, що може позиватися та відповідати в суді. According to the legislation, a corporation is a single legal entity to sue or to be sued. It is a set use of the word entity. Юридична особа is, as a rule, translated as entity or legal entity into English. But you can also find the translation as legal person, which is generally accepted in the European Union documents. But entity is more common here. Кошти заощаджуються одним підприємством на одному кінці світу, використовуються другим для виробництва товарів на іншому кінці світу. Funds are saved by an entity in one part of the globe and are used by another to produce goods on another continent. So here, підприємство is translated as entity. Of course, we can translate підприємство as a company, as enterprise, but in Ukrainian, the word підприємство has some other meaning compared to enterprise or company, and entity is more general word expressing the same, but including all meanings that the word підприємство may have. Next word to discuss is the verb to be. Generally, the verb to be is of great help while translating from Ukrainian into English because it can stand for a great number of verbs. Картина висить на стіні. Його письмовий стіл стоїть посередині кімнати. The picture is on the wall. His desk is in the middle of the room. The verb to be is, of course, a more general meaning than Ukrainian verbs висіти, стояти. But contextually, it is much better to use the verb to be here in English. У загальносвітовому обсязі водозбір з річок, озер, водоймищ становить 11,3 мільярдів кубічних метрів. On the global scale, the water intake from rivers, lakes and reservoirs is 11.3 billion cubic meters. And we can find this verb in the structures there is, there are, which are also very helpful in such cases as I'm going to present in the examples. 20 травня 1474 року у Києві відбувся землетрус. There was an earthquake in Kyiv in May 20, 1474. Потім почувся тихий шепіт. Почувся. Then there was a slight whisper. So if the context, the general flow of the text doesn't demand the use of the word to hear, to be heard, yes, we can easily use this structure, there was, instead of почувся, почути. У демократичній пресі зчинився галас. Проте цього і слід було очікувати. There was an outcry in the democratic press, but that was only to be expected. Через 50 метрів пролунав вибух. After some 50 meters,